can see, I've got a collection of writing tools here. I want to categorise them in some way. No two of them are exactly the same. You could say that each one belongs to a category of its own, but that would make it all a bit complex and unmanageable. I want to simplify the problem by putting them into logical groups. So for that, I need to decide on sets of criteria for grouping them. Here are some of my ideas. What criterion have I used in each case? Do you think any of the groupings are better or more logical or efficient than any of the others? What has this activity got to do with language learning? Well, all languages can be described in terms of categories, linked by some kind of criterion. Let's take a look at an example in English. I finished it yesterday. In a standard grammar book, the word finished would be labelled as an example of the past simple tense. It would be better if you finished it by tomorrow. In this example, some grammarians would also describe the word finished as being in the past simple tense, though it clearly doesn't refer to the past. If you translate it into many other languages, the word finished will not have the same form as in the first sentence and will be labelled as a subjunctive. What's going on here? Well, in the first sentence, we know from the word yesterday that we're referring to an action in the past. However, in the second sentence, it is used hypothetically in a so-called conditional sentence, as indicated by the word if. So we have used the same single form for two quite different functions. On the face of it, there seems to be no connection. And that's why, in conventional grammar and course books, these two examples would be presented as two completely separate structures. You would practice each separately, and then, based on the model that you were given, you'd have to produce examples of your own. This process is known as PPP, present, practice and produce. It's a very slow process and likely to leave you almost as confused at the end as you are when you start. But if you look at them from a global perspective, you will understand that there is a key criterion that they both share. So you can learn two or more things for the effort of learning one. Intrigued? Well, there's even more to it, but to understand it, you need to understand how the global approach works. All languages group concepts, often under shared forms. Otherwise, they would be unmanageable. However, not all languages use the same criteria for establishing those groups. Take another example. Here are two identical jigsaw puzzles. At least the pictures are identical. Let's say that the identical pictures represent the same objective view of reality. But notice that although they both represent the same picture, they are divided up differently. You can take this as a visual metaphor for any kind of organisation, be it cultural, political, social, or, as is my purpose here, linguistic. Different languages are divided up differently, even if they are being used to talk about the same things. And here are the implications of this fact. Each language has its own set of systems or categories. As with the two jigsaws, you can rarely take a piece out of one system and fit it precisely into another. In other words, you cannot adequately understand one language in terms of the organisation of another. Not surprisingly, when you try to learn or you are taught a foreign or second language, if you're like most adults, you'll naturally look for the patterns and organisation that are familiar to you in your own language. So you try to take bits from your own jigsaw and make them fit the language you are trying to learn. Sometimes you will find bits of jigsaw that genuinely are the same. But this can lead you to assume that the other bits will correspond equally well. In fact, what mainly happens is that you end up trying to force them to fit instead of noticing not only that some bits are different, but how and why they are different. Most of us aren't consciously aware of it, but because our own language and culture are so much part of us, we all tend to regard them as the norm, our established model or paradigm of existence. From this standpoint, we automatically filter our experience of everything else. In the language teaching jargon, we refer to your own language as L1, and the target language, the one you are trying to learn, as L2. When you try to fit bits from your own language jigsaw into the jigsaw of the target language, or filter bits of the target language so that it fits into how you understand your own language, this is known as L1 interference. That there are fundamental differences between the way different languages are organised may seem obvious. In fact, it's absolutely basic, and yet few people realise it when they start learning a new language, and very few teachers point it out to them. The global approach helps you to get an overview of the language you are trying to learn, and helps you to understand the key systemic differences between that and your own. In fact, most people find that in learning a new language, they are forced to learn more about their own language because of the differences and comparisons it throws up. To find out more, visit theglobalapproach.co.uk. My name's Rita Baker, and I look forward to meeting you there.